are joined by friend of the show, Annie Costabile, starting a new gig with Front Office Sports. She is their women's sports reporter covering the business of women's sports. And Annie, I just think it's such a fascinating time for you to take this job, considering CBA negotiations, Unrivaled, the increasingly changing world of women's sports economics, especially in the WNBA. I feel like already so many of the stories that you have written have dovetailed so nicely with the news that's going on in the WNBA draft. You also wrote an interesting story about Paige Bueckers and her potential impact on the Dallas economy as well. And this is a franchise that I think is in such a fascinating spot right now because they are trying to enter a new era after a couple years of mediocrity. You know, they went 9 for 31 last year. They hired Curt Miller, one of the most respected voices in basketball. He hires a former assistant in Chris Koklanis, who is also very respected in the assistant ranks, was one of the most discussed GMs in the athletic survey in 2000, or the most discussed assistant coaches in the athletic survey in 2023, talking about like who should be next. So this is a franchise that is in transition, and now they've just been hit with this force multiplier that could be like a cultural and economic and on-court accelerant. Do you feel like they're ready?
Yeah, I think they're getting ready. You know, the reality is, and I was lucky enough to talk to Greg Bibb, the Wings CEO, and we talked very at length about the Wings history and the history of this franchise and the narrative that surrounded this franchise, which he believes is kind of unfair. And I pushed back on it slightly just because, you know, narratives come out of the circumstances that we watch unfold as journalists, right? So the losing, the players forcing trades year after year after year, like that's what creates a narrative. And now in response,
it's 5 coaches in 8 years, right?
Right. You guys are shifting the trajectory of the franchise. And sure, you deserve credit for that. Like, I feel like, you know me, like I'm going to call things what they are. And if you deserve credit, like you're going to get it. I'm not going to like bash a team that is actually taking steps. And that's what the Wings are doing. They don't have these things in place this year. The facility, the practice facility, the new arena, those are going to be here next year. And so I think, you know, having one season with Paige in Arlington is going to be interesting. But I think Dallas is poised to absolutely explode in this market. And I talked to a couple econ professors, which was so fun getting their perspective on how she's going to impact the economy there. And of course, like the comparison to Caitlin came in because of Caitlin's impact on the Indianapolis economy. The difference here is Dallas-Fort Worth's economy is worth almost $1 trillion. It's over $700 billion that economy is valued at. And so Indianapolis, by comparison, is valued under $300 billion. So again, comparing apples to oranges there, I think. And also when you think about the sports franchises that exist in Dallas, even the Dallas Cowboys, like the Dallas Cowboys aren't just a Texas franchise. That's a global franchise. And even their impact on the Dallas economy is a drop in the bucket. So when you think about Paige's impact, it's not going to be this huge monetary number or monetary value to the Dallas economy. It's more so going to be impactful in the way that it establishes the Wings in the Dallas community. It brings them relevance that they haven't had before. And the other interesting part about this is they just lost Luka to LA, right? So they are without a Dallas darling. Like Paige could be the new Dallas basketball darling. And I think that is going to help them through this transition period and is going to be really great for the league to have a valuable franchise in Dallas. And I think that's why Greg Bibb and the Wings deserve credit right now because they've been preparing. And so now in this moment, they're not playing catch up. You know, like they're not right now running around with their heads cut off, figuring out what the next step is. The next step is already being put in place. It's just a matter of time before it gets executed.
Yeah, by the way, it's not a bad thing that the entire economy of a city is not falling on the shoulders of one athlete. We've seen that
Yeah.
go really bad
Can you
in the past.
imagine?
So yeah, I mean, I can. It's happened before. It happens a lot, unfortunately.
Oh my God, I
But
couldn't handle it.
I know. I know. Me personally, no. I'm trying to
Couldn't
just
be
my own
me.
my
I'd
own
like get on
personal
social media
but
and say
yeah.
something crazy one day and like the economy
Yeah.
would crash.
Yeah, that would be yeah. I'm just trying to keep my own personal finances
Yeah,
level right now. That is
right.
enough for me.
I can only worry about
I
myself.
also I also
Mentally,
think it's
physically,
hilarious, by the
emotionally.
way. Exactly. I also think it's hilarious that Nico Harrison picked today of all days to do a closed session with reporters talking about the Luka Doncic trade. Like, can you let the city have a PR win for a second? Can you let them forget about
I
you making the most massive mistake in the history of Dallas sports?
I have not read enough of like the reporting on the ground from beat reporters who like understand the happenings of the Dallas Mavericks. So I might sound stupid saying this, but I still, that trade in no world makes sense, right? Like no one's made
No.
sense of that trade, right? There's still not a clarification on like what? I'm sorry, but like I don't care if like Luca ran over your dog. Like you don't.
It
What
doesn't
what
matter.
reason was good enough to trade that man? It makes no sense to me.
No, it
Sorry, we're
doesn't
getting off
matter.
topic, but I'm
No,
like
yeah. I mean, hey, I got us there, but no, I think you have the absolute correct read on it because it is something that absolutely defies explanation. So
I'm like
that's
what?
yeah.
What?
Speaking of players who defy explanation, the Seattle Storm took Dominique Malonga
Ah,
with the number 2 pick in the draft.
I was so
French
excited about that.
sensation. Yeah. Yeah, well, so let me ask you actually, like, what your take on that was, but also like, what was it like to be at the draft?
The draft was great. I
Mhm.
thought the shed where it was located this year was amazing. Last year it was in Brooklyn and the space was pretty tight. And so it felt a little chaotic. This year it was very organized, I think very well run. I obviously love the orange carpet, love seeing everybody's looks. I think all the players looked amazing. I think Paige, her first look was probably my favorite of the night. I loved like an oversized suit moment, and I loved,
Mhm.
the sparkles, rhinestones, whatever they were. So yeah, the vibe of the draft was great, and it was interesting to see Paige have such an emotional response to getting drafted. And what I always think in these moments is like these players like Paige, like Caitlin, like Angel, like all these just elite stars, they hold so much in and they're operating at such a high like go 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 manner and they're compartmentalizing so
Mhm.
much that when the moment finally happens to have like that sort of release, I think is so beautiful. So really exciting night. And then when it comes to
I also
Dominique, I'm
think,
so
yeah.
excited for her, and I'm so excited for her landing in at it's such a historic franchise like Seattle. I mean, I think when the iconic franchises do well, that's good for the league. Like, we hear so many things from coaches about, oh, when the big cities do well, that's good for the league. I think to add to that, when franchises like Seattle, the Mercury, like the storied franchises are doing well, I think that's good for the league. And I think getting a player like Dominique gives the Storm a star for years to come. I mean, she is phenomenal, like truly unreal. So I think her landing in Seattle, that's super exciting, especially when you think about too the transition of that front court. I mean, Neka's there. Dominique's going to be able to learn from Neka, who is just one of the most respected veterans in the league, but also such a force as a player, former MVP, WNBA champion. So I think Dominique's in great hands in Seattle.